Hi, Joe Cerrone,
Al Rosen.
and today's video conference, we're going to go through and explain the assignments for the course.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, right now we're on Mod 9, and we're going to do Mod 10 also. Mod 9, as you look at it, has learning objectives into it, a sectional view, and graphic patterns. Okay, so as Joe keeps on going down on it, you will see the two areas that we have on. It's a mechanical drawing. You will see one black and white and one full color. It has full dimensions and has a slice piece in the middle of it on the top left-hand corner, which is a viewport that's been put into it. And if you go down a little further, we have an architectural one that has a black and white sectional view of a corner or section of a house or a building. And then you go onto the right-hand side, it's in full color. So you can see what the difference is. And he also has a border around it, template that has been laid out and ready for you. But right below it, it has a video. And the video is, if you go into it a little bit real quick, click on it, please. Okay. The video has every single one we're going to be talking about right there for you. So it has the architectural, and it goes through an architectural one itself. And if he slides it down, slides back down. Okay.
Let me take it from the beginning because it was previously used. So here it is. And we've made a few changes, but essentially these two assignments are still in here.
Right.
And then it's a 20-minute video that shows you how to do these projects. And so it's posted in the announcements. And then if I demonstrate how to do the mechanical, and in this video, it also demonstrates how to do the
report. Right. And you will have a completed one, brand new updated one, very shortly for you.
So it also has some additional content, you know, as I'm looking at it, in some real basic stuff like how to use hatch patterns. And so this Lake County CAD Consultants drawing, these things are available on Oakton CAD in Module 9. And Al and I still have that content out there because we've been doing this for so long, but it's not required, but it definitely shows you how you could quickly create a graph with hatch patterns. And that's really what we want because people will use these programs for lots of things. So with that, I'm gonna go back to the announcements, and I'm gonna stop this YouTube video so that we can continue our recording. So this is the YouTube video that demonstrates the assignments. So we don't need to make another one right now. And then you can explain these two. This is the ARC drawing.
Right, and because the PDF of it.
And the ARC drawing exercise is actually an exercise. And so we used to use a textbook called Harnessing AutoCAD, and this was just a really good build it up from the bottom up. And so this exercise takes it from nothing, starting with just opening AutoCAD and then creating and setting up the units, the limits, the grid, the snap, and the layers. And so it's kind of like a recipe. It's a cookbook, a problem, and that's the assignment for Module 9. You can do the architectural or you can do the mechanical. You don't have to do both. Here's the mechanical. And again, it's not a real complicated drawing, but we do go into a little bit of applications for how to do 3D for students who want to learn how to model, because it's typically where we go from here after we learn the basics. So that's Module 9. And then Module 10, we've released, we'll be releasing today. It's released, right, Al?
Yep, it's up. And what's nice about it is we have learning objectives in there right now, and we're talking about blocks and W blocks. W blocks is a writing block. A regular block is associated with the drawing itself that's on the screen that you save. A W block can be used any place, on a thumb drive, on a DVD, on a cloud, whatever. And we have two basic views or pages, we call them. The first one is a completed one that you can see, and we have computers there and whatever else. And if you don't want computers, you can put a box, a rectangle. We like to have a computer so we can do what we need to do onto it, and we see how you work on it, but we do what you need to do. And it has also laser printer and etc. onto it that's ready to go. The next one, and that's a PDF, and the one below it, it's a DWG. So we're not allowing, you don't have to do the complete drawing. All you have to do is do the drawing inside of it, the blocks and W blocks. And that
and let me explain that for a minute, Al, while we're making the video. So I developed this last night, and essentially this is what a lot of facilities people have to do right now is social distancing. If they're going to let people back into the CAD lab, everything has to be farther apart. And
6 feet.
so this is a good exercise to do that. And so what we did was we came up with this drawing, and there's this page right here. And then here's how it will work. Create blocks of the computer lab equipment. How to do that? Well, you can either work in floating paper space, which is to double click in the viewport, or you can work in model space. Okay, if I work in model space, I think it's a little easier because I don't have to go through and set the scale. And then what we do is we create a block. Okay, now here's an old computer. You can tell it's old because nobody buys CRT monitors anymore, but it still works the same. And what we would do is we would go to the Insert tab, and then we would go to Create Block. And then we would create a block, and we could call it Computer. And then we would say, pick the base point. And so the base point will say, pick point. And I typically recommend people take the midpoint of the back of the monitor because it's right in the middle. And then what we'll do is we'll specify the objects. And so we'll say, select the objects, and then we'll go and we'll select. What I recommend is you select the CAD geometry first, and then these are called attributes. And so I'm going to click on these two attributes second, and I'll hit enter. And what it'll do is it'll give me a little glyph of the object, and then I can say, let's say Oakton computer for CAD lab. And I'll say okay to that. Since I already have one, it's going to make me redefine it. So I'm going to say don't, and I'm just going to name it a new name. And so I'll say Oakton computer -1 so I can keep my old one. And I'll say okay. All right, and so here, when I create the block, it allows me to designate things like the model number. And so I'm just going to say generic Dell, and then enter the model number for the monitor. I'm just going to say CRT, but we could easily say i7 with graphics card. What people typically do is they'll put part numbers on it. And so they'll say 1, 2, 3 part number. And then, you know, as far as the monitor goes, but what we do with this is these attributes allow us to be able to keep track of the inventory. And so here it is. As I wrote it, it's a little too big, but I can go here and I can then set it into the room like that. And then if we look at the exercise assignment, the assignment is to put the first one 2 feet away and then each other one 6 feet. And so if I come back here to this exercise, and I'm going to edit this because it's got too many words, I'm just going to go to put it back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and set up the distances. And so I'd say offset 2 feet, and then I'll go 6 feet from there. And so we'll go home and we'll say offset 6 apostrophe, enter. And it's, unfortunately, I've got this as a block, or it's not, it's already
you
a
get a power line. You have to explode it, Bill.
Correct. So I'm going to explode it, and then I'll offset it. And so I'll say offset 2 feet. Still there. And then I'll offset 6 feet. Well, let's do the 2 foot one first. So I offset it 2 feet, and then I'm just going to move it. And it doesn't have to be super perfect, but if you want it to, it can be. And so I can say from the midpoint to here, now it's super perfect, all right? And then I'll go and I'll offset 6 feet.
Or are you going to array it?
We'll keep it easy. So we'll say 6 feet, and we'll go here. And we're just putting our markers in place. And so when we get down to how many labs in our planning purposes for this current situation, we can then come here and look at it, and we can say, okay, I'll put one more computer next to it. If you want to make a new block, you can define it as this Zenith NEC multisync. The way to do that, unfortunately, I converted the block when I made it, so I would have to copy it and then explode it and make it again, which is easy enough. And so if I come over here and then I explode it and then I make a new block, I can call it Zenith computer. Zenith used to be right down the block from us. And then we do the same thing. We specify the base point as the midpoint. And then we select the objects. Again, I like to select the geometry first and then the attributes second, because as we insert them, you'll see that it will prompt us. And so we'll say okay for that. This time I'm not going to say convert to block. I'm going to say retain. And I'll say okay. So now when I insert, doing it a different way, if I say insert block, let's do that right there. And then I can say one of these computers. I've got to figure out which one it is I just did. I thought I called it computer Zenith.
And when you find it, you right click on the object.
Right. Well, seems like it's misbehaving, so I'm just going to insert this one for right now. Anyway, now, and then I'll put this, I usually just drop them, and then I can say whatever computer it is. So I can say this one will be a Zenith, you know, and then I'll say okay, and you'll see that it names it. And then what's nice about using attributes, although we don't talk about it a ton, is that we can generate a list of all the computers in that room. And so this exercise is really pretty straightforward. You know, we're going to come through and just move it. I like to use O-snaps. I like it to be, you know, if somebody says, hey, you know, my seat was too close and I caught coronavirus, I think somebody will. I can at least show them that I took the precautions and I did my job, you know, to keep the lab safe. And so as we go through this, you'll need to create some other blocks too. And so you'll need to create a block of the laser printer, the plotter, and the printer. And it's the same technique. If I come back to the Insert tab and I say Create Block, I can call it Plotter. And I'm going to put a -1 because it may have one already. And then I'm going to say Pick Point for the base. And so it's attached when we insert it. And so it's important that you pick a base point so it's not floating out in space. And then we select the objects, hit enter. I like to use it as retained so it doesn't consume it. You can add, like, you know, you could say this is an HP 7550 model, whatever. And then I'll say okay. And so when I insert the plotter into the room, I can say, oh, it's got to be 6 feet. This one just kind of had a layout, but I'll put it over here at this mark. And so I'll say insert. And then I have to, I don't know why it does it like this, Al. It's just driving me nuts, where it used to just show me everything I can insert. And so there's like a button here, current drawing, that's what I need. And so here's my plotter now. And what you do is you just drag them onto the screen. And so there's my plotter, and then I can go and put this in the right spot. And so that's how this exercise kind of works out. You'll make the blocks of the laser printer, the plotter, and the 3D printer, and then you'll place them in the room. There's no real wrong answers unless you put them too close or you don't follow the technique, but it's a good application. And then we'd also like you to put the dimensions. And so insert the blocks and put the computer names on. And so you can see I've inserted a generic Dell and a Zenith, and then add the dimensions. And that's basically it. So what we'll do is we'll come back here, we'll go to the dimension layer. Blocks are typically created and used on layer 0. And so we'll talk about that in the lecture component, which goes through, I'm not sure what the chapter is, it's 20 something.
24.
24 goes through some of the rules for creating blocks. But essentially, I'll switch over to the dimension layer, and then I would just put in my linear dimensions. It'll give me the overall size of the room. The overall size of the room is 17 feet by 38 feet 7 inches. And then you can also go and add the measurements for the technicians to document where the computers should be. After we've completed the tasks that are in this list, I can always straighten that part, we'll go to the layout page, and then it's just a matter of cleaning it up, putting the dimensions on, and making the drawing look like this. Put your name on the title block, save the drawing, and insert it into the assignments folder for D2L.
Okay.
So that's going to complete Lab 10, and I'm going to stop the video in a little bit, making sure that we cover everything else. Let me come back here to D2L. Module 10 will be the computer lab assignment. The computer lab assignment information is located right here. And the student version of the drawing, if you click on it right here and open it, it gives you the information that you need to create the drawing.
And if you go to model real quick, please. And you only have that, there it is. And if you want to get rid of the other one, Joe, we can get rid of the other one.
Definitely. So there is some ways to kind of beat the system, but we prefer not to. All right. So with that, I don't want to make a real long intro video. So here's Lab 10. And Lab 10 is the last lab you will do. Tomorrow, we will be releasing an announcement for the final exam. And so tomorrow, in D2L, you will see that you will have access to the final exam. And so the final exam will be posted tomorrow, and you're to pick one drawing, either the mechanical or the architectural drawing. And you're supposed to also take the written portion of the exam, which is in quizzes and exams. And it's called CAD 116 Final 2020, which will be released tomorrow at 10:25 a.m. Maybe earlier, we may change that, but it'll be tomorrow. You can prepare for that exam by taking the practice final. And you can take the practice final as many times as you like. And so we recommend you take it 1 or 2 times and then take the final. And that's basically it. You take the multiple choice final, which is very much like this, and it's just multiple choice questions. And then you take the written final, and once you have taken those tests, they will be automatically graded, and you'll put all the assignments into the correct assignments folder, where they will be graded and evaluated by Al and I. So that's the basic rundown. The last day of class, or the last day to turn in equipment, is the 30th at midnight. And so We'll actually probably put this at 11:30, but you'll be able to turn in things afterwards, but they will be marked late. Al and I have to have grades in on Monday morning. So the 30th is really the deadline. If you can't make the 30th, be sure to email and request an extension. All right, Al, with that, I'm going to stop this recording and post it, and then we'll go back to a question and answer. So,
Fantastic.